Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 24th, 2022 at approximately 7:51 p.m. PST. Figured I'd do things a little differently today. See, I've talked about getting the energy running in your own world, getting your life moving in the right direction. So I figured I'd go a little bit into a different pattern today, in a sense. Okay. And that is my one passion besides, we'll start with the idea. I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, the tools I offer are literally the tools I personally use. Okay. The philosophies of life that I talk about are the ones I personally live by. And if you ever end up actually meeting me in person, which I'm quite willing to do, okay, yes, I'm rather on the reclusive side. But I figured I'd do things a little differently today. See, back when I was about 15 years old, I wrote the outline for a story. Okay, in my grade 10 English class, I was asked to write we were all asked to write a book outline. Okay, so I wrote the book outline. Now, here I am. Well, I'd have been 15, so here we are almost 45 years later. Okay, because I'm 59 now. Now, the outline I wrote was a story that really took reality from its inception all the way through the construction of the planet, all the way through ancient races, aliens, off-worlders, the whole nine yards. Okay, up through the rise and fall of man, and then on beyond it. Okay, I left it open to go beyond it. Now, the way that it started was I wrote the outline. Okay, and where it comes to writing, considering I am currently published, I've got two books, two novels available on authorhouse.com, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Indigo, Chapters, and probably a few other places. Of course, there's a list of books that I've already written that is below this video. Okay, I write in 5 different genres. And this is what I'm talking when I've talked about pick a goal that you are content with, that you're passionate about, that you understand. Where it comes to writing, okay, write something you're familiar with. So all of the above, I'm literally familiar with. My life is more like science fiction than anything else. But this story started off as an outline way back when I was 15. To date, okay, now basically it boils down to this. The Yldrbacian Chronicles, which is what they've become, is a 12 volume story that will amount to approximately 4,800 pages by the time I'm done with it. Now, currently, I've written almost 1,500 pages that are in soft copy. That's including this book here. This one was the first novel in print. Okay, that's The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Now, I am a gamer. Okay, as in, I play tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. I have since I was 13 years old. I've averaged twice a week since I was 13. So we're now looking at 46 years. Okay. So when I talk about, I actually, because of my marketing consultant, I'm going to read you a piece of writing. I wrote the baseline for it, and then my marketing consultant rewrote it through AuthorHouse. And this is literally what he came back with, based on what I had written to start with. Written by a gamer with gamers in mind. This story is set in a world of magic and technology, where magic and technology have evolved together. Humans, though now the dominant race, are not the only ones still walking the planet. Ancient races from before the rise of man have risen to reclaim their place on the surface of the planet, and off-worlders have traveled from distant planets to lay claim to their share. Modern society and civilization have now fallen in the great collapse that encompassed the entire world. present day Jeremiah Woolstrand, with a small group of like-minded people from all walks and ages, band together in a brutal post-apocalyptic environment to help rebuild civilization by any means necessary. Caught in the middle of all of this turmoil, a group of civilian tabletop gamers must learn to cope with their world when their world is turned upside down as their fantasy world collides with reality. Okay, this is just some of what I've done. Now, of course, what he went on to say was, I thought that maybe you could write the above paragraph like this. Okay, the rewrite, and this is what I've got to modify. A group of tabletop gamers now find themselves in the center of this turmoil, learning along the way how to survive as their fantasy world collides with the real one. Combating an ancient presence, all races must now work together to usher in the end of an epoch and the return to paradise. Now, that's as the information was written to me, and of course, I'm reading this literally off of here, and it just dawned on me I've got to make some modifications to it, but that's okay. Before I put it to print, which will be going very, very soon. Now, here's the thing. The Birth of the Wolf Pack is right here, already in print. Okay, as is the secondary volume, which is the end of an epoch. Now, as you can see, the first two books listed are already here. Now, where is the other one? That would be way over there. Of course, it would be way over there. Now, this is where I am. This is a book that I am writing Return to Paradise in. Okay, it's about half written at this point. Now, here's the thing. Okay, when we take a look at this whole story, okay, Jeremiah Woolstrand. Okay, if you look at the back of the Birth of the Wolf Pack, you'll find the original story written, the original one essentially that I wrote back when I was 15. I made a couple of minor changes, as in removed actual number and year counts and just left them a little bit more vague. Other than that, it's the same storyline that I wrote originally. Okay, now this is the way that the Yldrbacian Chronicles is written. I had to break it down into 4 trilogies written that are interlocked. Now, because of the way that it came about, this last trilogy, the Yldrbac, the latter years, is the last trilogy, but I've tied it back so the one coming out, the end of an epoch, or not the end of an epoch, rather, the Return to Paradise, I'm hoping to have out at the end of this year, with Where It All Began, which will be the first book in the series. Okay, it will be the next one out that I'm aiming to have out in late 23, early 24. Okay, and I'm already about a third finished writing that one. Okay, so now something you've got to understand. When I say I'm a gamer and this story is written by a gamer with gamers in mind, okay, I'm talking about tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I even have, where is it? There it is. Should have got some of this out. Okay. When I'm talking about various different things, okay, I'm telling you, when I say I'm a tabletop gamer, I'm sure some of you may have run into this or have at least heard of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Hands don't work very well, but what the heck. Now, that said, these are some of the dice that I work with. Okay, that's a 20-sided die. Okay, if you're a gamer, if you play Dungeons & Dragons or any of the online games, not online games, you may have seen them online, but tabletop is where my forte is. Okay, and I've got various different sizes. These are what I use. Okay, every one of the primary characters in the Yldrbacian Chronicles what is written based on characters that other tabletop gamers that I played with actually developed. Okay, each has their own strengths, their own weaknesses. And what ended up happening was I had so much fun with the gaming, okay, and with both the gaming itself and the interaction of the characters and the people that I happened to have gamed with, that I decided to document this. It just so happened that when I wrote The Birth of the Wolfpack, it fit beautifully in at the tail end of the actual original short story, the original story outline. And I just tied it all into that. Okay, so the story outline will tell you how it all came about. But what I ended up doing was each of the primary characters. Now, Jeremiah Wolstrand, I actually built myself. He was actually built as a character in Aftermath. Aftermath is another role-playing game from way back in the 80s, in the early 1980s, about a post-apocalyptic world, i.e. the world collapses, and now you're left with whatever's left over. Now, when I built Jeremiah to start with, I made a comment to the gamer, and to the game master, which is the guy that runs the game. I turned around and I said, when I built Jeremiah originally, I says, look, I did not ask for the world to collapse, but since it did, I'm going to have the best of the best. And that was his whole outlook. He would go out of his way. He is actually the pacifist of the party. Okay, in other words, if he can talk his way out of a conflict, he will. If he's pushed into a corner, another issue altogether. Okay. Now, there are 7 primary characters, and when you take a look at the back of the books, okay, here we have, this is The Birth of the Wolfpack, and we have Jeremiah, we have Wilhelm Schunter, we have Tanya Jan Scott. These are primary characters and primary members of The Birth of the Wolfpack. Okay, we take a look at the back of the end of an epic, and we have Dirk Waterstone, and we have Blade. Okay, again, 2 more people. Now, of course, this particular ship here, it's continued up in what will amount to book 8. Okay, but this is a Srazazian starship, an off-world race that is, quite frankly, from my experience, is currently on Earth. Now, like I said, my world is more science fiction than anything else. The Srazazians, I don't have a picture of them yet, but they are going to be worked on here. But this world, okay, that I built, is a world that is, now understand, these are stories on post-apocalyptic. So none of it is happening, with a little bit of luck, we won't have it. But you have Jeremiah. He's the pacifist. Okay. Blade, who is the big, and do understand, it was, when we take a look at the way I look at the world, okay, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody is of equal value, and this is still the same for me in this life. Okay. Blade is he grew up on the street. He's got an interesting background. Quite frankly, it's a little twisted on occasion, but he and Jeremiah hit it off really well. And in all fairness, when I met the gentleman that actually built Blade, we hit it off. The 2 of us hit it off really nicely. Okay, we used to do a lot of things together. Now, the reality is, over the years, I've lost contact with all of them. Okay, I very seldom talk to any of them at all. Okay, but you'll get to meet these people. They come from a variety of different lifestyles, a variety of different paths. But the whole issue is because of this one ancient conflict that is in the ancient, what is it called? I was going to call it an adversary, but that's the antagonist. There we go. The ancient antagonist comes from way back in the first of the Chronicles, right at the beginning. Okay, he reappears in the latter part, when we're going in to deal with Return to Paradise. That's where everything comes to a head. But the birth of the wolf pack, and I always looked at it. I find it difficult to get into reading. Okay, I really do. Now, because of that, I figured it's got to start off at a reasonable pace. Now, I will tell you, the combat scenes, I do my best to choreograph them properly. Okay, they are post-apocalyptic, meaning this is a very brutal, a very sometimes bloody conflict. But okay, I do my best to keep the characters evolving properly. Okay, and what I did with the end of the birth of the wolf pack. Okay, when we look at the birth of the wolf pack, okay, what I did with it is when I got to the end of the story, in order to tie them together, I take the last part of the last chapter and tied it in to make it the prologue of the next one. Okay, the same thing happens at the end of an epic. Okay, the last part of the last chapter is being moved immediately into the Return to Paradise. Now, the reason I've done this is because I've got the whole world played out in my head. Okay, and if you look over here, right over here, that set of files, that's all hard copy stuff. That plus these two files right here. It's all the stuff that I've written, okay, in its most recent form. Okay, so I take it from an idea, right? I take it from this, from just paperwork. Okay, handwriting the old-fashioned way. Okay, take that, move it to soft copy, modify it, and then get it in hard copy. And eventually, the final outcome is it comes to this. Now, this particular series, when it gets finished, you'll notice a couple of things about it. Okay, first of all, it's a complete story. Each book, I do my best to make them have a start and a finish. But if you take a look at these, okay, just gotta make sure I do this right. When you take a look at them and you put them together, they will form a complete picture. All 12 books are designed. The back pitch and the back panel is already done. Okay, now the other thing I'm in the process of doing is this. One of the major adversarial groups that we're dealing with are these people. Okay, the Moldocs, another race that I've personally run into. So what I did was I wrote them into the story. So when I'm looking at the actual story of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, not only did I tie all the books together, but quite by accident, okay, like it was sort of an afterthought that came to mind, is this, Races of the Worlds. Now, this is just simply a reference manual, but it gives you the information on the societal standards of the different races. When we go into the Yldrbacian Chronicles, into the writing of it itself, that's when we get the actual personalities coming forth. Now, as you can see, these guys are not known for being nice. You can just tell by looking at them. Okay, so I've got all those. Now, I can't show you this part, but while I'm writing all of this, I have a Excel spreadsheet up here. Okay, that covers where everybody shows up. That compendium will come out at the end of getting all the books written. Probably about a year after. Okay, but it covers all the different people, all the different terminologies. That will be in there in one solid book all on its own. I've also started writing another book that's tied to it called Jeremiah's Journal. And that's a working title. Literally, that's what it is Jeremiah makes journal entries all the way through the books. And all this, and what this journal does is it will take those and put them all in one place. Okay, but like I said, it's an attachment to that issue. To the Chronicles. The other book that I'm also working on tied to it is at one point in one of the stories earlier on, Jeremiah ends up on a space station. Okay, that's before the fall of man. Okay, so, and there's a lot that goes into it. When I'm looking at where it all began, I will also be dealing with things like, what is a soulmate? What's a soulmate, a life mate, a twin flame, a soul family? All these things are actually written into the story. Okay, to explain how all of this interlocks. I keep telling people on the journey, okay, that that everything is connected. And while I'm writing these, okay, I cover such neat little things as, how does healing work? And when I'm talking about healing, and I'm sure some of you have heard of it, Reiki or pranic healing or touch therapy, this sort of thing. All of these are little bits and pieces that all fit together, including the concept of creationism as compared to evolution, where I've combined technology and magic and it all wraps around together. Some of these people are gifted in certain ways, others are not. Okay. Now you take a look at the group that is the wolf pack. Okay. We have people that are literally from every walk in life. And I do have flashbacks that cover where they originally came from. How did they come to be the way they are? Okay. Basically, what I'm doing my best to do is make it so that when you read these books, you're drawn right into them. Okay. The idea, in my opinion, and if you're a writer, I hope this is the same way you look at it, but everybody's got their own way. When I'm writing the novels, I prefer having it so it feels like you're right smack in the middle of it. Now, this is a way to escape the modern world in a sense. Okay. And because the birth of the wolf pack is post-apocalyptic, let's hope it doesn't go this direction. Okay, it's a real brutal world that I've written about. But it is not telling you that this world is going to end. Okay. If you've played Dungeons and Dragons at all, if you've ever played even any of the online role-playing games, okay, or you've watched movies. Now, I've already been approached, okay, with the possibility down the road of turning the Yldrbacian Chronicles into a movie. Now, this is something that's for way down the road, because until I get it written, like I told them, until I have finished writing and have in print the Return to Paradise, I'm not touching a storyline. I'm not touching a movie setup. Have I considered it? The answer is definitively yes. Have I considered possibilities in the way of merchandising and what have you? You bet. Okay. Now, by the way, the artist that did this, he's the one that's doing the artwork for the Races of the World. And again, like I said, this is all interconnected. So what I do is with the Races of the Worlds, I get a hold of this one artist, okay, and get him to come up with a concept, working with me to come up and say, okay, there's what that race looks like. Then I turn it over to my artist who is doing the artwork for the Yldrbacian Chronicles and go, here's a baseline. Take that and turn that into something solid. Okay. So this is why when I talk about it being a massive project, okay, I'm looking at, the first one came out in 2019. Let me just take a look at that because I don't want to stick my foot completely in my mouth. Okay, when I look at the birth of the wolf pack, where is its copyright? Just got to see if it's written in, if it's at the front or if it's at the back, and I don't honestly recall. So if I look to the back of it, And of course, I'm looking at the back of it and can't figure out where the heck it says what the copyright is. But I'm pretty certain I brought it out in 2019. Okay. And I'm going to get fed up looking for it pretty quick here. Ah, there we are. Came out in copyright 2019. Birth of the Wolfpack came out in 2019. The End of an Epoch, on the other hand, when I look at it, just take a look at the back and the front end here, and it came out in 2021. Well, as you can see, the odds are it's going to be 2023 when the Return to Paradise comes out. Okay, I've already looked at some of the issues, and yes, I will eventually be getting pictures drawn up of the actual primary characters. Okay, I forgot to mention. No, this one, it's on the other one. Okay, so as you can well imagine, at least I think you can, because of the way that I wrote the story, because it is written, like I said, with gamers in mind, I started off in the easiest place I could. The Birth of the Wolfpack, I started off in a bar, which is called Casey's Bar and Grill. Okay, it was the easiest place to start it, and from there, it basically wrote itself. The Birth of the Wolfpack, I really didn't know where it was going to end until I got into about 3 chapters from the end, and I went, I've got to tie this down, or I'm just going to carry on writing. Okay, now I knew when I started writing it that it was going to be, at least I'd have the story, a sequel, and probably a prequel. What I wasn't entirely intending on was that it all fit together so nicely I managed to put the whole thing together. And that's where it's going to go. Now, this is a major project for me. This is something I've been working on my entire life, and I'm really happy to say, just like you, if you've got a project that you put on hold, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're not dead, you can still get that goal accomplished, but it's going to take a lot of work. Okay. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to let you go at this point, and I will be back again tomorrow at some time. Okay, until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.